let's face it, anybody who's done selfies usually takes a gazillion photos, and then you pick one and then you might not actually love it. You're just like, yeah, it's okay. But do you love it? Do you like, damn, it looks so good. Like, damn, yeah, I want to share that. If you do, that's awesome. But most of the selfies, I feel, aren't doing that. Hello, and welcome to the podcast Biz on the Brain with your host, Annemarie, where we talk about anything and everything around being your most authentic and unapologetic self, what that even looks like, how you can do it, because personally, I think it's one of the hardest things to just be yourself and be okay with that, whatever the ripple effects are. And me as a manifesto, I've come into a lot of situations where people will have very strong opinions about me, how I express myself, and sure, everybody can relate to that. But as you've seen in this season, where I just talked to other manifestors of the human design, it is this kind of very intense common denominator where we just polarize people by existing, by having this very dense aura, and by being the people who just are very disruptive by nature, come up with new ideas, come up with ways to disrupt and change the system, question the status quo. And of course, a lot of people will not like that. And that's okay, right? But we're here to just trigger people, good or bad, right? Even unintentionally, even by just stepping into a room, even by just existing, people will be very triggered for some reason. And I've learned to be more at peace with that. And peace is also the most important expression of the self, which means that I'm in alignment. When I feel peace instead of being angry, then I know I'm on the right path about where I am, about a person, about a place, and all of that. And so currently, as I'm reevaluating the season, because I want to wrap this up with this episode, because I realized for me, I like having a podcast only in spurts, which is so much in alignment with the typical cycles of what a manifestor does, because we don't work consistently like sacral beings, like generators and manifesting generators, who can show up every day. And most of the advice online or anywhere really is do something every day, just do a little bit every day, like just work at it, chip at it, show up, be consistent, be visible, all of that stuff. And growing up as a manifestor, also having ADHD, I just don't have the spoons. I don't have the energy. I don't have the capacity. And I noticed, and that's been confirmed to me in the conversations and the more I talk in a manifestor-based community, that when I keep trying to catch up with people or keep up with people at first, I really can't. It just leads to definite burnout. And I've had those cycles where I was just closely skating or like diving right into that. And that's just so hard to get out of, because then you need to stop everything. And in this hustle society, in the society that labels rest as lazy or unproductive, where productivity is kind of a core value of a human being, which is very questionable, very toxic, but also so deeply ingrained that I often catch myself feeling really guilty for taking a nap, for just lying on the floor, for just staring at the ceiling, or like my walls, because I painted them really nicely, and just looking at my plants, like for just having a day where I can't do anything really, and being like, okay, what? I'm just gonna go for a walk. Like, that's it. And I can't do that because I'm my own boss. I'm a freelancer. I can't do that, but still, I designated Fridays as my fun days. I won't do anything. No calls, no work. Usually I just end up playing computer games all day. Yeah. And I was like, that's okay. Whatever I need, that's the day. And that is just for my mental health, for not subscribing to the hustle culture. And like I said, when I realized that I'm a very cyclical being, because first I'm a woman, we have cycles. Our hormonal levels, they fluctuate every day. And like with the male cycle, which work environment is based around, like you can have the same, way to show up every day. But women, we have different weeks that align with different energy levels, with different ways to show up in the world. Like the first week after the period, you're more creative. Then you're more about networking and selling yourself and showing up with people. Then it's like trickling down, so less energy based tasks, so more maybe admin stuff, clearing stuff, scheduling things, just behind the scenes stuff. And then the period week just really taking it really slow and reflecting on what's happening. So like different cycles. And then as a manifestor, you have those urges where out of a sudden you got this spurt of energy and you really just want to burn it. And you really want to like do something and move mountains, and you just need to exert it. And usually the urge is just a random idea that pops into your head out of nowhere. And it's very different to just having ideas coming like, oh yeah, this would be a nice idea, this would be a cool thing, because I also have an open head, which means constant stream of new things, constant impulses, and I often find it tricky to discern what I should act on. Because I'm still pretty new to the human design experiment, as it's called, like when you try it out and see what works for you, if it works for you. Because as always, don't take anything as gospel. Don't be super culty about it. Like, don't make it your entire identity. Sometimes it's really hard because I really love exploring it and bonding over it, because it's a way to actually get to know yourself. And I think we all could use more of that. But working in cycles for a manifestor means that you have to be very consciously uncoupling from hustle culture. That you have to be very discerning and tuning into your body more so than sacred beings, because they get their happiness and the satisfaction from exerting the energy, but we only have so much to give. And if I don't keep honoring my body and my needs and being on the low when I don't have any urge, but when it comes, and I've been actually honoring my need for less work, for less exercise, for being more soft to myself, right? When I've been honoring that, I have so much more energy for the urge, and I can do so much work in the nick of time, just like in the shortest amount of time to get the thing out and running, because I can't just keep at it and keep fine-tuning it and like working on it, because we need to have more space for people to work in the way that feels natural to them without judging. Because for me, all of this really brought up a lot of, the judgments that I kind of have been subjected to and internalized of, you're so flaky, you're all over the place, you constantly change your mind, can't you just be consistent and stick with one thing? So no, I haven't been able to. It drains my soul, it drains my spirit, it makes all of the creativity just flee from me if I do that. And that is also the beauty of being a manifesto, any kind of multifaceted, very multi-interested and very diverse entrepreneur that are a lot of out there. Like, so many people are interested in many different things, and we do need specialists, but we also do need generalists, because we are the big picture thinkers. We are the ones who connect the dots, who try new things, who merge new things and combine ways that haven't been there before, and especially manifestors are the way to do that. And I realized the more and more I did networking calls, and the more I did all of these podcast episodes on being a manifestor, is my current focus, which is really, really in line with my gifts. And I'm really coming more to terms with that's something I shouldn't really take for granted or dismiss because other people did that. And, just really own that. For me, I'm a 4/6, which means I am an opportunist role model, which basically means I thrive in small communities because I'm an internal markets person also. So like I'm not the person who would be like social butterflying at the big conferences and trade shows. It's overwhelming, it's overstimulating, it's too much going on. I need to pick people one-on-one. Like I go to networking events and I'm just like standing by the wall, observing, scanning the crowd until I like find some kind of soul connection. I just look at a person, I'm like, yep, that person. So I'm just gonna go over there and I'm just gonna start a conversation in the middle. That's usually what I do. People are like, what? So like I just adopt them basically. I'm like, we're gonna be friends now. And they're like, okay. Right? And if I listen to my gut properly, then it usually is without fail. And they are just like, I did not see you coming. I love what's going on. I don't know what is going on though, but I love the energy. Bring it on. Right? And so that's how I operate. And that's, the networking part where they will then introduce me to more people or talk about me. So that's usually how I get clients anyway, through people who love what I do, but then they will tell other people about it and then I get them. Which is, for me, like, it's so weird in business. That's usually, sure, it's a big part of networking, but most people will go like direct sales, direct pitching, be on social media, post every day. And I've been posting on social media for 10 years. I've been doing content creation, both in front and behind the scenes, for my own as well as other brands. So I'm really good with that. And that is such a generative thing to do, to be constantly sharing and updating. And I notice how much that gives me anxiety, not just because of the fear of being seen and vulnerability and all of that. I've gotten really comfortable talking about a lot of things that are vulnerable and are maybe topics that are not necessarily dicey, but a bit more raw, emotional and open, especially about a lot of my downsides of being an entrepreneur, especially when it came to travel content creation. Oh my gosh. But I really realized that it helps me if I first have single conversations, like one-on-one, small groups, and that way I can give people like a teaser of the energy they can be in if they work with me, or if they just let me be me, because then I will just instantly, here's an idea, because a lot of people will have the knee-jerk reaction. Somebody tells you their problem or something you're thinking about, and they'll be like, oh, here's advice, fix it. And usually that is really well meant, but often it can feel very stopping the conversation in its tracks, or dismissive, or being like, oh, it's so obvious, here's the solution, can we not talk about it? Obviously that's not what it's intended, but that's how often it lands. So I'm always very conscious about, are people open to me initiating something new? Like, do you actually want my advice? Do you just want to talk about it? Do you want to brainstorm? And when they are open to it, then I'm usually just like, give them like a full-on narration of like all of the ways that I see it from my outside perspective, and in different ways that I can combine my different expertises to give some experimentation and playful room and ideation to whatever the problem is, so that they can think in a different way. Usually we need just a little bit of a shift in mindset and perspective to solve our own problems anyway, right? And like, I'm a manifestor. Everybody has another type potentially, and also all of the different special gates and centers in your chart are so distinct. It's like your own fingerprint, super unique. So that's why I like human design. It's not just, oh yeah, you're like these 5 types and you match or you don't match. Like, no, it's very, very detailed, and it's really just a manual to figure out how you show up in the world with more ease, with less resistance, more joy, and how you can be loved better, right? How people can appreciate you in a way that is really good for your system. It's really good for knowing yourself and communicating that. And I love that so much about human design. So I've used it a lot on myself in a way that helps me be very kind to myself, give me much more room, especially when I notice all of these blocks I mentioned, like, judging myself or not being as productive, or not having the energy, or not coming up with these ideas, or like, yes, coming up with the ideas and then jumping on them and then running out of steam because they weren't really meant for me. They were just like an idea that passed by. Like when you do meditation, you have all of these thoughts and you just let them pass by. You don't follow them actively, right? Still working on that. But what I've realized, and now let me get back to that, I didn't even touch the point I wanted to raise, is me noticing all of my skills is using that in my virtual photography. I didn't even really connect the dots how that works, because first and foremost, most people have never heard of virtual photography. It's not new. It's been around since the pandemic because, people couldn't just show up in person. So that was a really cool way for photographers to do fashion shoots, for instance, in magazines via virtual means. There are so many ways. Even if you don't have the biggest equipment, a creative person can work around a lot of ways. And sometimes the results are even better because of the creative limitations, even if they are frustrating. I always appreciate them because they push me out of the original plan, which might have been really good, but it might have also been very normal, very safe. And so creative blocks will usually help you think outside of the box, come up with workarounds and all of that. And so for virtual photography, I heard about it last year and then instantly tried it out because I understood it in principle, but something didn't click. And I did it on myself. You just need a laptop with the app. I use Shutter app, but you can also use Close app, and a phone, which is where your client would have the phone, and they could be anywhere in the world. It's like a Zoom call, like doesn't matter. Only that they have a good connection, so it's you can be connected. That's really it. And then you can take the photos from the desktop, where you can remotely trigger the camera of the phone of your client. And I was like, that's easy, that's really cool. Like, think about all of the potential. And the more and more I did it, like, the potential just kept exponentially growing. I could see so many different ways to use it. You can have that as a really quick content session, because like I said, I've been creating content for 10 years. And while I know what I'm doing and I know how to do it, it still is very frustrating. And anybody who is a solopreneur can tell you all of the jobs that you have to do might seem little, might seem very doable, but if you have to do them all the time, all by yourself, every day, they become so annoying, and chances are that you don't love all of the tasks. And when you are growing your business, you need to be outsourcing even before you're ready, because then you can expand and you don't run into the problem of actually being so frustrated and being so stuck in things that you can't, first off, find the budget, you can't find the time to train somebody or hire somebody, and you fall into this trap of like, oh, I just do it myself, like, and that's not good for growth, right? And so with photography, for instance, if I do my own selfies, I would have to do all of the setup. I would then have to also, I do remote release. You can do it on a shutter, right? Self-timer, on your phone, on your camera, whatever. But the thing is, if you do it by yourself, first off, the energy is different. You don't have the same body expression and vibe to it as if there's another person that raises the vibe, that makes it much more fun, that you can have this creative exchange with. And also the other person will tell you things like, there's a fly hair on your face, like you're just half blinking, like maybe you should turn your chin up like by a centimeter, like the light is better this way, turn that way, like look down, look up, take this thing, do that thing. Again, it's like the synergy where they can give you more ideas and you can just both work with that and spiral it out into something really cool. But also somebody else is taking care of all of the things, so you don't have to overthink it. And then your face doesn't do the thing where you're just like straining and you're constantly turning your head, looking at the screen to check if you're looking okay. And then you turn away, try to take the photo, and you didn't quite hit the angle right. So you take a gazillion photos. Let's face it, anybody who's done selfies usually takes a gazillion photos, and then you pick one and then you might not actually love it. You're just like, yeah, it's okay. But do you love it? Do you like, damn, it looks so good. Like, damn, yeah, I want to share that. If you do, that's awesome. But most of the selfies, I feel, aren't doing that. And so if there's another person who A, is a photographer, knows what they're doing, what they're looking for, you do not have to overthink anything. You just are there, you're gonna look cute and follow the directions. And then you are done in like 15 to 20 minutes. You're just like, that's it. Because this is not a photo shoot in a studio. That's a different thing. It doesn't replace that, obviously, but it makes content so much faster because you give the camera to somebody else, they take a couple photos, and then you switch locations, you switch clothes, positions, hair, whatever, and then you have content for an entire month in like half an hour session. How amazing is that? And you wouldn't be able to do that, especially not while really having fun with it, if you do it by yourself. Because yeah, you can do it, but it's still different, right? And then also the quality is different. Again, if you do everything by yourself, how much time do you really invest in honing all the skills simultaneously, or having like that expert skill that you could give to an expert you could do it really fast, but they also honed their skill. Like now, if I look back at my photos like 10 years ago, I just cringe. They're not that good. And I remember I was like proud of this one and that one, and now I just look at a photo, I'm like, I see 5 mistakes instantly, right? And so most people who take photos, they don't see that. And that's why a lot of people, I hear photographers tell like, oh, I have a phone, I can just take photos. It's the same. Why would you need photographers? Oh my God, slap in the face. Why do you need experts for anything if you can just do everything by yourself? Because you do not know what you do not know, but those are obviously not good clients for photographers. Then if you want to do it yourself, do it yourself. But when you do appreciate the work and expertise that goes into the work by experts who specialize in this thing, or like have expertise in it, that just hits different. And it also raises the appreciation for the service, which also raises the gratitude of the photographer to be like, oh my gosh, they love what I'm doing, they're not as dismissive. And then you have an entirely different dynamic. It's so much more fun. So I'm much more conscious now also of who I work with, communicating how I work, because I realize I am very specific in the way I use my intuition to really, I plan my shoots, I have mood boards, I communicate the concept, and the concept really, really importantly to me is not just that it's a random photo session and it will be very much my style. No, for me, what I do in my big picture thinking is that I want to know the person. I really want to see what they're like, what they're about, who they want to become. That's my special talent. I can see people's essence, essentially. I feel their vibe and I know how to translate it into visuals, photo, video, all of that. And so when they know about their branding, because a lot of the branding is also very logical, right? So you have color psychology. So you pick a couple colors that have the emotional reaction that you want to elicit in the people. So they know like blue is more technical, it's more, finance or whatnot. And pink is more feminine and maybe girly. Then you've got like orange for like very energized and playful. There's so many meanings behind different colors, and also the emotional reaction when you put certain things together, how much you put it together. There's like a lot of expertise in how you design things, how you place things, the fonts, the layouts, the spacing. All of that is really important, and all of that is really people a first impression of what you are like. And so what I found is lacking in a lot of these online representations, be it social media content or be it designed websites, is that the personality of the person is not always considered, especially if it's an entrepreneur. You usually go for the goal of how you want to be perceived, which is important to consider, but it shouldn't be all of it, right? And I often feel business catfished when I look at websites, because they are entirely different when you actually talk to them. You have an optimized copy, everything is beautifully written by another person. Then you have beautiful website design designed by another person. And then you have the actual person who might have a coach for their social media, and that is optimized in a different way. So you have all of these different people doing their trademark way of working with the stuff while keeping the person in mind, but it's not often translating to the actual personality of the person. And that might be because in anything corporate and business, it is not common for people to actually show themselves. It's not often seen even as professional to have a personality, to be fun and bubbly and energetic, to be soft-spoken. You have to be assertive, you have to be dominant, but not too manly if you're a woman, but also not too bitchy, but also kind of bossy, but not too much. And you have to be like in suits, but not too colorful, and not colorful hair. Like, all of that is BS, quite honestly, and I do not want to work with people who are so sleek and so perfect that I feel maybe insecure about myself, that I don't know what that person is about. I can't relate to them. I don't feel that they can relate to me either. Maybe they can, but I don't know. I'd rather know a person up front and know exactly what they're about. If they have a beautiful brand video and they really show what they are, instead of, a lot of people change when they have a camera in their face. Very normal. They become very stiff, kind of robotic. They try to come up with this kind of on-screen persona that they think is very professional while overthinking it, and then you're not in the moment to actually deliver your message, because we're not actors. Most people are not actors. So there's all of these things that are missing in this kind of on-screen dynamic, because also for camera you need to turn it up a notch to translate the energy. There's a whole lot of different things for being on camera, and I'll also help coach people with that. But for me, it's always really important, the overall holistic approach to any kind of your branding or marketing. Are you there? Is that what I'm seeing you? And we often can't even judge ourselves properly because we do not know how we look like to other people. That's why often it is jarring to hear your own voice for the first time. That often is jarring to watch yourself on video, to watch yourself with other people's photos, because you're only used to having the weird contorted selfie face. If the camera lens is very short, like with cameras and phones, then your face is much flatter, your hair is much lower in volume, everything's like pulled back, instead of you go and get like a proper lens, like very long, like 200 millimeters, where you have to step back real far. You can actually have a whole face of a person, looks totally different persons. And then you look into the mirror, and again, like your eyes translated differently than your camera. Like, the inversion where people started crying when there was the mirror filter on TikTok, because they're like, oh, this is how I look. Some body dysmorphia going in there, social media dysmorphia with all of the filters and all of the insecurities being projected onto us for people showing only their curated lifestyle online. Even if you are very much aware of all of that, it can still subliminally train you to feel insecure and bad about yourself. There's been studies on the effect of social media. So and so I really, really just want to make people comfortable in showing up and to be their cheerleader for the times when they feel in the middle, feel doubtful, or they feel insecure about showing up. Because yes, you need to push your boundaries, you need to get out of your comfort zone, but not too much. It shouldn't be such a shock to your system. I'm always about gentle approaches, but also like aggressive compliments, aggressively having your back, the kind of weird bubbly tough love. Well, it's not like mean tough love where I'm like harsh, but it's just like, I just want to like show you how amazing you are. And I realized with the photography that I'd been doing on myself, because like I said, I've been a content creator, but I also need to be creative. And doing content is often not even that creative anymore, because a lot of it is very based on what the algorithm wants, what is trending, what people actually resonate with. And if it's too quirky and different, people are not necessarily first liking it, because the algorithm might even show it to the wrong people, so it never gets pushed out. Or they're kind of reluctant to take that on, or they don't know what the heck is going on. And so it can be really hard to be super different, right? And sometimes you just need somebody there to be like your lone cheerleader, to be like, okay, yeah, I'm just gonna keep doing it until you're suddenly an overnight success, because that's not a thing. And I've been doing a lot of my self-portraits and realized, if I look at them side by side over time, how much I've actually grown and gotten out of my comfort zone and really pushed my creative limits and experimented and actually become more comfortable showing more of myself. Because I did a lot of content where I show my face and talk a lot about myself, but it's never really been that open and fair, because you don't have to share everything about yourself. You have to be discerning about what you put out there. People are not entitled to all of you or any of you, right? And it's okay to be curating that. But at the same time, I really felt I didn't let people see me. And that's also a Manifestor thing, where people cannot read you. They don't know what you're about. And especially if you come up with new ideas, new things, they don't know what to do with it. I often see so much potential. I'm like, oh my God, like virtual photography, do you see it? Do you see it? And people are like, it's just a different way to take a photo. I'm like, yes, and you can take content, you can have beautiful photo shoots, you can have a session with your bestie, you can travel around with your favorite photographer, you can go to conferences, have an amazing quick photo and have that edited in the back while you do your speech, and then you post it, and like it's so much more professional. And you can do your brand photo shoots even when you travel. You can have like remote collaborations across the world with new models, designers, and like brands, and like get even people on board, like your fans could be just taking photos of their beautiful products in action, but it's not a terrible UGC kind of photo. It's actually a professional photographer takes the photos of the people, so the people feel appreciated for using your product because they have a professional photo shoot. You know how, like, there's so many different contests going on social media, but like, where are the photo shoots for people out there that love on your brand already, and then they just take kind of horrible photos because they're not a photographer and they don't know what they're doing? And then you have those brand visuals, and then maybe, yeah, sure, you have this in your fine print when there's a competition that you can use all of the footage that people submit to you, which is kind of shady. But if you give them like a photo shoot, and yeah, you make it obvious that I'm going to use the content, but then they're so happy about having amazing photos of themselves, because we often forget that we need to invest in ourselves, and that photos are much more than just photos. Photos are a way to transform memories and capture an experience, an emotion. And you look at the photos and it will trigger the synapses in your brain to relive the moment, to relive the emotions, to tap into that scene. And it's just a beautiful thing, especially with your loved ones, right? At one point in time, you will only have photos of them, or maybe you don't even have enough, and then you're like, damn. And it's like one of the biggest things that annoys me so much with like photography in women is that a lot of times the women in families, the mothers, are the ones who capture all of the moments, are the ones who curate the family experiences, and then they're not in the photos. And then they ask the husband for a photo, and the husband is often very dismissive, like, why do you have to have 1,000 photos? Like, this is just a stupid cherry blossom tree. Like, why do you need a photo of that? Like, why? And then they take shitty photos. Or like this social media trend, you know, where they had these couple sessions and everybody, like, the couples both painted each other, and then usually the woman became like the swamp troll, and the woman made really beautiful depiction of the husband. I'm like, no, that's happening a lot in photography, where your bestie will take amazing photos of you looking cute, and you've got those weird candid moments where you shove food into your brain and look weird halfway, and then it's this weird thing where it's teasing but also kind of mean, right? It's like, oh yeah, I see you beautiful even if you look like a troll. Excuse me? I can tell my best friend she can look like a troll and like be weird and take like silly photos, but I will still take the most amazing photos and make sure she feels loved and knows that I don't think that she's a troll at all. It's just like the holistic thing, like you're a whole being. I'm sure you mess up when you're funny, but like I still think that's cute. But also, you're so amazing in my eyes. Here's an actual photo of you looking that. Right? And so I just want more women to feel the power of photography and to feel that investment in themselves, because somebody pointed it out to me this week. It actually has a healing quality to it, how I approach photos. Because like I said, with my photography on myself, I can see how much I've grown and I've healed myself and actually used my inner child to come up with all of these different concepts and to be playful in these sessions and wear different kinds of outfits and wigs and makeup and completely transform the pictures in my photo editing, making it fantastical, right? And when I do the virtual photography, either I try to come up with new ideas, fresh angles in people's already established comfort homes, right? You live in your home every day, you kind of take it for granted, but then I come in and I see things for the first time. And I'm like a big child. I find everything super curious. I'm like, oh my God, this is a shiny vase. What is this vase? Like, take it in your hands. Like, hold the flowers in your face. Like, smell it. Like, do the things. Like, you know, or I discover different corners of the room. Like, this corner's really good. Like, the light, it floats. Like, I like the way it throws shadows with the window curtains, and I like how that shines back on this pillow or whatever. And people, like, gave me the reaction of, like, oh, I didn't even consider that. Like, I have never seen it like that before. You know, So it's just this different way of appreciating what you already have and seeing it with fresh perspective, which is pretty good if you are into manifestation and gratitude exercises and all of that. But also, likewise, it would be really good for manifestation, because if you can create a scene to then relive by looking at the photo, you can also create a scene that you want to become, because manifestation ultimately is about realizing that everything you already want is what you already have, and you only have this moment. You're only in the now. You can't just live perpetually thinking about the future or like ruminating about the past. You need to be here now. Are you okay with what you have? Do you live in your joy? Is there everything that sparks joy? Not everything is obviously always daisies, right? Everything is not just happiness all the time, obviously. But are you content, or are you just like, okay, you just kind of settled on your life? Where's the spark? Where can you romanticize your life? And if you want to visualize your higher self, your future self, they tell you to like think about what they feel like, what they look like, what they wear, where they go, the routines and all of this stuff. And you need to actually do them in your day-to-day life to become that, because then you are it. So you don't need to become it, but you are already it. And so if you use photography for a visual stimulation and a visual confirmation of all of that, that is an added bonus, especially if you use playfulness. Because didn't they say also, like, when you want to create a new habit, it takes like 100 different times to do it. But then if you do it in a playful manner, it's only like 20 days or something. I don't know. You need to look that up again. But like, it cuts down the time really fast if you just do it like kids, just for funsies, out of playfulness, if you make it into a game. And especially all my fellow ADHDers will relate to anything being a game and giving you dopamine, right? So photography can totally do that. So you can heal your inner child by letting it out to make the scene happen. You can also manifest because you are creating the scene that you want to see in your life, and then you are in the scene, and then you show the photo, and so you have been that, so you can do it again. And also because I approach photography in a very intuitive way, by listening to the personal, by wanting to actually capture their essence while using all of my creative mind and quirks. But I want to interpret the person as they are instead of just pushing my own vision onto them. Which kind of sounds contradictory, because I want to show them how I see them. But it's really about them. I'm like an up-leveled mirror, like mirror, mirror on the wall. And I'm like, yes, you're the greatest. Okay. No doubts about it. No Snow White about it. We're all beautiful. And I just want to make sure you see that, because more often than not, so many photographers can relate to that. I just hate it so much when I take so much time to capture somebody, and I really love the session. I really love the person, the way it went. I really love how the photos look. I took so much care to make them look really good and to polish the photo. I do not edit the bodies. Like, I don't do any Photoshop editing on that. I just really want to get them comfortable and out of their head and in the moment, that it almost feels like a candid photo. And that's another quirk of virtual photography, because I make sure you do not see the screen, so you do not know what photos are being taken. So you just have to trust that I know what I'm doing, and I've got a lot of examples to show you that I do. But when you do see the photos and you're like, damn, that's me. Oh my God, really? That's how you see me? That's how I look to other people? Like, I'm really that awesome. That's what I want to see from people. And in traditional photography, what I found a lot of, especially women, do is they will instantly zero in on their insecurities. They will just look at their nose, their neck, whatever it is that they feel insecure about, that they will look at in the mirror and pick at. And then they will dismiss the entire photo. They'll be like, oh yeah, it's quite nice, but like, my nose is just big, but And it just breaks my heart, because sure, it kind of bruises my ego, but it also breaks my heart because we've done all of this and you don't see any of the stuff. It's like, when you can't be grateful for all the things that you already have, and you just focus on the lack that you have, this typical lack mindset, this insecurity, and it's completely normal, but it's something you also need to be consciously aware of to then break that pattern. And yeah, I noticed that a lot in photography where people just do that and then they can't enjoy the photo as it is. And they can't even appreciate the work that the photographer put in. So that feels shitty. And also you don't get the benefit of the entire session when you just deflate and dismiss the results of it. Because you know, when I do these photos, I really want to make people comfortable. I'm not a therapist. I can't just instantly, like, not the therapist can instantly switch people's mindsets, but I'm not there to help fix your insecurities. I can't do that. I can just work my magic to make it really beautiful and work your good angles and to use all of the skills to just make you shine and highlight all of your beautiful parts and just not cover up, like, you know, like when you look at your skills, what you're good at and what you're not good at, instead of just focusing on, oh, I'm not good at this, I need to be better at this, and then you just forget to actually train your talents. That is also kind of nonsensical, because again, you do not have to do everything perfectly. Why don't you just focus on what A, lights you up, and B, what you're really good at, and then you can always maybe look at things you might get better at, or like work with somebody who already does that and complement each other and be in a partnership in that way, right? We do not have to be so hard on ourselves. And so when I realized that bugs me so much, I'm like, I can just suck that up, or I can replicate what I've been doing with my virtual photography, where I just, for instance, take my models and say, you gotta stand in front of a white wall in a white bed sheet. And that's it. And so these sessions are so weird that automatically they get out of their heads. First, it might be a little bit uncomfortable depending on how much they're willing to try this out. Because I always make sure that there's no slip-ups. Nothing is awkward or they're not stiff. Like, yeah, give them like pose ideas, and it's like, think of it like a toga, like you're a goddess, you're just like in this bedsheet, or like, you know, if you want to be like sexy, whatever. And I come up with the wildest stories. I make stuff up on the go to get people away from thinking and just actually back into their body and into the playfulness of it. I will just talk about them being a queen and like they're announcing a new kingdom animal that's going to be in a coat of arms. What is it going to be? What's your favorite animal? Like, what colors will it be? And is it a mythical creature? And like announce it to the crowd instead of just saying or do a power pose. I will like give them a prompt and then let them embody however that feels like. You know, if they want to point at the crowd, or if they want to like put their arms on their hips, like the hands on their hips, or, you know, just naturally engage that playfulness, that play pretend that you have as a kid. A lot more adults could use that. And so like that really gets people out of overthinking, like, how does my head look? Do I look okay? Like, what's my hair? Like, no, you're just in the moment, because I'm like on the go, boom, 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 like this idea, like look up, there's a sky, like touch this thing, like go forward, 2 steps left, 2 steps right, like now twirl, like look over your shoulder, like bam, bam, bam. And so that is wild, that is fun. And when I do then open Photoshop and I start just intuitively interpreting what I felt about a picture, what feels right in the moment. Because like I said, I have a concept, but then I might completely kind of deviate from it if it doesn't feel right or aligned in this moment. So I might just add more flowers or some animals or some backgrounds or some like gold effects. And it's a whole creative process. I can't even properly describe how it works because it's very intuitive. I just open it, I just play around with things, you know, like throw and see what sticks to the wall, essentially. And then ultimately arrive at a photo that makes me go like, yeah, oh my God, this is so badass. And when I know like, oh, I can't wait to share this, that's when I know I'm done. Because I could be forever editing. And as a manifestor, I will either completely burn out and then be like, I can't handle anything for the next 3 days. So I have to just stop. Because, you know, I can be done. And then I just love the reactions of the people to see beyond their insecurities and just see the whole picture and actually take in the feeling they evoke in other people and how I want them to feel about themselves. So it's much more than a photo. I don't just photograph them and their looks. I photograph their vibe and their essence. and make it visible to them. And I think that's also a beautiful way to brand yourself, to make it really clear that you're a very individual, personal brand, especially if you're an entrepreneur. That's your ultimate unique selling point. That is your standalone feature, that you are you and nobody else has lived through what you have, has your unique set of skills and expertise and the journey to get there. And you can use that in visuals. Visuals can tell a story in a frame, right? If you want to go a step beyond that, you can use video. That's a whole nother topic. I love video as well. So I do a lot of different things. Anything around visual storytelling, branding, marketing, content, anything that really captures people's essence and that also underlies some kind of empowerment, because that's ultimately my goal. I want people, especially in business, to be more playful, to get out of the blocks around creativity, and to also feel more empowered in just being themselves. And the way I approach any kind of work with clients is always paired with that. So yeah, I guess my work is healing, and that's also a very Manifestor feature, I guess, to come up with all of these different ideas to work it into something entirely new and different that people don't quite know what to do with, but then it makes sense when you do it, when you're like, oh yeah, I actually needed that. I didn't know this ripple effect that I can't control. A lot of people can see, but then when you actually are exposed to that, to the energy, to the process, then it just makes so much sense. And you're like, why hasn't this been done before? And so that is a very Manifestor thing. And so I'm very excited to keep, just shouting more out about this new process that I'm doing with virtual photography. And I'm going to speak at more online events and networking sessions, and so that's really interesting. But if anybody who listens to this podcast is interested in working with me, or knows somebody who is into empowerment and business and appreciates photography, then send them my way. I'm always interested in meeting more people or doing some really cool creative projects. And currently I'm really focused on this kind of retainer package, because it makes much more sense to show and have this transformational process and healing process over multiple sessions. And not everybody has just space to be playful and creative all the time, because we have the businesses to run. But I think once a month check-in for a creative playful session of photo, which can be just to create content for the whole month in a short amount of time, but also to do the more creative queen sessions, which I like to call them, where you can play with your inner child and see your grandness in an artistic rendering of your vibe. Yeah, so I'm doing these packages for half a year and a full year if you want an additional video component to it. And that also is very limited because, like I said, I'm a manifestor. I do not have the space and capacity to constantly keep creating. And the more and more I use my creativity, sometimes it can fizzle out if I stretch myself too thin. So I'm keeping it very, limited on how many people I can take on with these programs. I can do more with like occasional photo sessions. But if it's more of a process where it's really about transformation and the healing, then obviously that is much more directed at the person, much more one-on-one. And so I retain my calendar and my energy for that. So like that's currently what I'm working on, just so you know. And yeah, that really is the current stage of where I am in my Manifestor journey, where I'm getting much more comfortable with understanding my design and how to use it, and just honoring that more instead of just listening to all of the noise telling me where I should exert my energy and then be burnt out. Right? So that is where I'm at. And so to have a little break, I will have this as the last episode of this third season. There will be more seasons, but I don't know when it's gonna be. Probably on a bit of a break because I also want to go travel. But if you subscribe to my newsletter, and I'll put the link down below, you stay on the up to date. Is that how you say it? I don't think so. You'll be up to date on my shenanigans, on the products, or just on where I am, where I'm speaking. And if you want to network, you can always get in touch. And if you liked the podcast and the episodes and anything in particular that we touched upon, then I'd be so grateful if you could rate it and share it, because it's still fairly new, fairly small, and I always appreciate shout outs. So that's it. I wish you a fantastic day in the week, and I'll hear you, or you'll hear from me hopefully soon. Bye.